Hello and welcome to episode 220 of the FReality Podcast. Finally, we get to launch our brand new intro and the brand refresh to go along with Crew V2. Hell yeah!
Yeah, sick.
Adam's threatening us with a machete, Jose's about to launch a revolution, and Rowdy's gonna do a number on your knees. But don't worry, when that's all done, I'll dig you a hole and put all this bother behind us. This week on the podcast, we've got tips for crowd surfing in Rec Room, turn those old Vive wands into lethal weapons, PSVR2 reviews are a yummy candy store, and just $1 for a MetaQuest Pro. Psych. After that, Jose's going to give you a run on releases. If you're joining us in chat today for the live show, let us know what you've been playing too. First up, where is Rowdy? Well, there's a last-minute houseplant potting seminar, and well, our Rowdy has his priorities in order, let me tell you that. Now, some work thing came up, and he couldn't dodge the bullet. But we'll have Rowdy back in next time, so don't fear. Our bold, bearded, beaver tail lover will be back. I was going to say next year, because that would rhyme, but that's not true. It'd be next podcast. With that, Adam's gone dark.
Apparently, me too. I was like so sad that Rowdy's gone that I just decided to, bleep out of existence for a little bit. But I'll get that set up in a second.
I'll let you concentrate on that. I will.
Okay.
I'll do your bit here I'll do Jose's bit while we come back around to you. So
no worries.
When he's not scanning the horizon for new and upcoming releases, this man is face first in synth riders, bebopping to the tunes and working up a sweat. He's ready for the future and knows the place to place his bets. He's our personal game genie, so let's rub the lamp together and summon the VR tech. That's our Jose. Hey, Jose.
Yo, what's up, you guys? Oh, man, kind of sunbathing right now. It's like the first time that the sun actually comes out here in California, and every single time I've recorded in here the last 3 times, it's always been kind of dimmed. There's not a lot of sunlight. Today, the sun is just blaring at me, smiling at me. So it's kind of like, oh, great, another lighting control. And the sun just randomly disappeared now too, as I'm talking, which is weird. But, yeah, man, I've been kind of traveling a lot and just absolutely hectic. So much happening in the last 2 weeks, so much tech talk, so much technology happening, innovation. I honestly have never felt so active in this industry as I felt in the last month.
That feels good to be an entrepreneur, burning away the midnight hours, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, it's been awesome, especially for gaming, right? Like I that's the cool part. It's VR, right? So like traveling, doing any job, working, anything that you're doing, that even if you're breaking a sweat, it's like when you it all settles in, it's like, oh dude, I'm doing this for like video games. It's tech. It's so cool. So it kind of like recharges my battery. So I'm kind of recharged. I think that's kind of the theme this week for me. It's kind of like I'm just so ready to get back to like everything, because I've been doing so much cool stuff behind the scenes, and I'm kind of like now just amped for just everything VR, man.
Yeah, well, we know what that's like. Put the work in, before, and you can't say anything, you can't show anything, you know what I mean? And you got something exciting that you want to just give to people, and it takes you months or years to get it out, and then it feels good when you finally get to that point. But certainly the work behind the scenes part is, it takes effort, doesn't it? So you got any particular highlights of the week that you want to share with the audience then? Anything?
Man, I guess I would say a little highlight. In about 2 weeks now, officially, I'm going to be in Vegas at Amusement Expo. So I'm going to start talking really cool VR industry shop, stuff to make the industry a little bit better overall. That's the reason why I'm so excited and amped, right? Because a lot of people call me, or know me as Jose the VR Tech, but I'd never really released something tech worthy of the name. So like that's why I'm so excited. I think what I'm releasing will be worthy of that name, right? Because a lot of people in this space usually come out with like, oh, I'm selling something, and it's not really like that. So I'm super excited.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about you out in the desert, selling your wares. Absolutely about that. Well, that's great, Jose. Very excited for this podcast. It's been a long time coming. And now, with Rowdy away, your favorite FReality lass has the helm this podcast, and for the very first time. So if she's stressed, you know why.
Now I know
That's
why
right.
Rowdy's so quiet all the time. It's stressful. And he only has one monitor. I'm like, you're a crazy person.
Exactly. Well, we saw Adam and how well she handled bathtub kayaking and thought, yeah, let's give her the keys to our SS Titanic. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, I believe you said you don't see any icebergs ahead. Isn't that right, Captain Adam Bombardi?
Oh, God. The pressure. Yeah, that video, I should have had it queued up, but it's on my Twitter if you wanted to find it, was partly my idea, partly my husband's. I was like, I don't know how, maybe it was just, I don't have ADD, but maybe it was just a random thought that I had. And I was like, you know what, I want to do a nice video for Kayak VR, but everybody's got the nice videos where you're enjoying the graphics and everything's pretty. So I was like, well, look, how can we put like a more humorous spin on this? And I was like, all right, how would I get the maximum amount of immersion out of Kayak VR? I don't actually have a kayak, so I couldn't even, do that. But I was like, you know what, the bathtub for some reason. And I was like, the worse and the crappier this video looks, the better. And then it was my husband's idea to get the spray bottle in the corner and just.
That was amazing. It must have been cold water in that spray bottle because you were wincing when the spray was coming at you. Yes. And it was just hilarious to see.
And we must have used it to get pests away at some point because it had like a peppermint smell in there. Because I had to smell the bottle to make sure there wasn't like bleach in it or anything that would actually hurt me. But I was like, oh no, we must have used this for like pests, they say peppermint will help. Anyway, so yeah, it was like cold and pepperminty. It was a very strange sensation.
That's going to revisit you. One day you're going to be like rocking in an old person's home and this waft of peppermint smell is going to come and you're going to remember back to the heyday when you were in a bathtub and your husband was gunning you with the peppermint spray. Oh man, that was good. I love it when people take it to the edge for content creation. I really do. I think it's fun. The one I saw this week that really tickled me was someone did an unboxing of a PSVR2 where no product was shown. And they were just talking about how nice the various bits were for 3-4 minutes. It was incredible humor.
Man.
I wish I could remember the gentleman who made it, but it was my favorite by far of the PSVR2 unboxings yet. So with that, I'm definitely going to be picking on both of your thoughts about PSVR2 a little bit later on in the show. But Adam, for now, any highlights from the past 2 weeks to share with the audience?
I've actually a couple small things. First, I tried Tentacular on the PlayStation because I really wanted to see how that felt with the haptics and everything, which is, no matter what, you can't have that sound like a proper sentence. But anyway, it's interesting. I like being able to see the differences between like a Quest or PC VR game versus maybe what they did uniquely on the PlayStation VR. Because like in Tentacular, for example, in order to get the NPC's dialogue to continue, you've got to kind of boop them on the head. But in the PlayStation version, you can just kind of look at the little person and then, hit X. So they utilize eye tracking for all like the dialogue options and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice touch. It's like, that's pretty cool. Like a little thing, but it's interesting.
That also leads me into why you were asking me questions about how a certain game we'll talk about later implemented eye tracking. But yeah, you're right. It's funny because when there are re-releases, the experience can feel, I've felt when you have a port from a platform to another platform, it can feel kind of carved out, like hollow, like, hey, you're missing something I needed. Like the graphics in The Walking Dead Saints and Sinner on Original Quest, like you look at it and you're like, this doesn't feel the same to me. Even if the core gameplay is there, it can kind of feel a little bit lacking. Or the opposite, right? Sometimes it feels like, oh, this is enriched by the differences on this new platform. So looking for those differences in this PSVR2 lineup with so many re-releases is very interesting indeed.
For sure.
So speaking of speaking, and Jose's going to be our sharp eagle eye on the podcast today. Take a sconce and let us know what people have been shouting about in chat at the start of this particular
nothing
show.
At the moment. So far, I see a lot of hellos. Looks a lot of South by Southwest energy.
Oh, very good.
Kind of waiting to see what people been up to.
Sounds good. I saw a couple of comments there. I saw Laura Pizzi said the new intro was fire. Oh, I saw Rowdy in there.
Yeah,
Where the hell are you, Rowdy?
They read something.
Random Rowdy.
No, he's clearly away from his setup.
He was summoned by Adam's moment of darkness. So, he felt it. He's like,
whenever anything goes wrong, he'll be in chat all of a sudden.
The pop.
all of a sudden, just to add some pressure and all that. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what happens when you give up half of your existence to AI like Rowdy did. So it's pretty cool.
I also saw in chat someone was talking about the new. So we had Fabsters saying Walkabout new DLC is awesome. That's I think the Uptown DLC.
Upside down. I think is it called Upside Down or Uptown?
I thought it was
something about
down.
that.
Yeah,
I thought it was Uptown. Upside Town. That's it.
Upside Town.
There we go.
Upside Town.
We both had it right.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into that. Although, as I said on a previous podcast, my wife has absconded off to doing Walkabout with her mom instead of me now. So I was clearly too slow, which is fine. They're having, I'm sure, a good ladies' night every week. But yeah, I'm missing out on so much Walkabout DLC. It's not funny. So that looks cool. And they've also announced another thing. They did an IRL thing down in South by Southwest, and they announced another DLC that's coming. I forget the name of the creator, but very bold, bright. Creative looking Meow Wolf. Yes, have you heard of Meow Wolf before? Because
yes.
The metaverse.
They have a like these in real life experiences. Like there's one in Vegas called the Omega Mart, where it's kind of like
we spoke about it here.
Yeah,
we covered this on the podcast before.
That's right. So it's the same company that does them, and they do other little like weird. I don't even call them art installations because they're incredibly interactive and story based art installations. Maybe we'll add that in there.
Creative agency.
Yeah, but so for them to be working with Walkabout, I think they're going to do something in a real life IRL thing, right? Like a trippy mini golf course somewhere. Like that's going to be crazy.
Who thought an indie mini golf game could go this hard when it comes to the content partnerships that they've struck up? Whoever is responsible for that has been doing an amazing job. I haven't seen a single partnership go awry. Like, and their levels, the design changes that they're making to their game as well at the same time. To do all that together, that's an orchestra, and it's going very well for them. And whatever money they're making, I hope they're killing it behind the scenes.
Their
because
world building.
My God, it's lovely. It's like they have their own carved out piece of VR right now. And that is not a small piece. That is a very large piece. So congratulations to Walkabout for continuing success on that. I better tell you my spoiler, or my highlight then. I was meant to say no spoilers with this, just in case people get really nervous like I do around that. There'll be no details given. Resident Evil Village for me is a monumental piece of VR gameplay.
Ooh.
And I started and finished this over the course of nearly 40 hours of PSVR2 streams. So yes, Zim finally unpackaged his PSVR2 since the last podcast, which literally feels like the Ice Age since now. It's been a very long time since then. And I threw myself into probably 15 different titles since then. And I decided, right, Resident Evil Village, I'm going to take you on because I wanted something with balls to go and try. And man, we're going to talk a little bit later about the PSVR 2 in more general terms, about the system itself. But as a VR horror connoisseur, just wow. I had great hopes for a good Resident Evil game. I was a little nervous because people were saying it was not as scary as Resident Evil 7 was, and I really liked 7. It was in my top 5. This has now jumped for me, after having played about 1,600 VR games and experiences, to number 2 all-time VR, just behind Skyrim.
Wow. Wait, Skyrim's number 1 for you.
Modded Skyrim is my number 1 because it's open world. You can do what you want. I lived in that game for 5 years. It's crazy. But Resident Evil 8, I didn't think it would have this big of a punch for me. I didn't think it would scare me as much as it did. It really did a good job. I went to 5-year-old girl screams. It is both a scary and immersive game, but the animations, the characters. As I said, I'm not going to go into detail. This is just my plea for people to go and take this on. For those who might be wondering, what's the rest of your top 5, Zim? So it's Skyrim, then Resident Evil 8, the controversial Medal of Honor, but I had so much fun in that game. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is my number 4, and From Other Suns is number 5. So that's my current top 5. It just bumped out the PSVR 1 killer, which was Resident Evil 7 and all of its DLC that had VR content. That used to be my number 5 spot, and we say goodbye to that one, replacing it with the PSVR 2 title, which seems kind of fair. But yeah, the PSVR 2 system is just, in Resident Evil 8, the black levels are absolutely eerie. Like, if you've ever peered into the abyss in the dark when you were a kid, even when you were an adult, right? but in the way that you feel like the dark is peering back at you.
Oh, God.
It's got that voluminous, like, if you ever went into VR where you felt voluminous water, like in a Subnautica game or Ocean Rift, and you felt something lurking in the far beyond, it's like that, but in clear air. So it's the first time I've ever experienced that in VR, where the darks are scary all by themselves. All by themselves. And I'm not an OLED panel basher. I'm not the guy who goes like, ooh, I want a TV with the perfect light levels. I'm not that guy. But this is like crazy. And then the monsters, the characters, and the giant set pieces that happen in the game. It's a vicious title. What a great way.
I never played the VR, any of the VR mods or this one yet, but it's on my list. But I did play it on flat screen, so I know what happens. And yeah, that's some certain areas, certain houses I'm not looking forward to revisiting. I thought this would be a one-time only thing.
Yeah, there were surprises in this game. And again, I'm going to keep this completely spoiler-free because I'm super... But there were surprises and turns in the way that this game went. I was not expecting, and it's feckin' evil. This thing is just a vicious piece of hell.
Does it use eye tracking in any way, or?
Absolutely, it does.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't do it in the way that like Switchback does, where when you look at a particular thing, it triggers, a jump scare or something. It doesn't do that, as far as I could tell. Actually, one of the most impressive things about the system, largely, and I'll just say it now because we're on the topic, is the eye tracking, the dynamic foveated rendering that happens. I've never seen it myself, except for when I'm looking at recording afterwards. It has been perfect. I haven't seen it once. I haven't seen something that looks lower pixels or anything like that. The headset is incredible in that respect. I didn't think it would be non-discernible. I thought I would definitely see it on the fringes or something, but nothing. RE8 took me about 14 hours to beat, start to finish. Okay, and that's in the gameplay save recording. In real life time, it took me about 20 hours because of needing to stop for food or drink or, just a stress break. But it's an absolute must play if you can stomach putting yourself through that kind of torture. So Resident Evil Village is a masterpiece, in my opinion. It does have some things that aren't that aren't perfect, right, in terms of design decisions that are questionable in the experience. And if you're a VR veteran, you'll go into it and you'll say, there's things that very clearly immediately show up to you. But putting that stuff aside, because RE7, I'll tell you, had plenty of that stuff. It's a much better game, I think, than RE7 in my book. This I did not expect a better game. I expected something to come in a little bit weaker, and it's it was an amazing purchase to get that on sale and to experience all of that. And it's the kind of game that you might want to even dip your toes back into after you've played through it once. So because you do kind of unlock some features.
And achievements. Achievements are so
fun
on PlayStation compared to Steam. No one cares.
Trophies. VR trophies are not enabled, so you don't get any trophies for playing in VR. And a lot of PS players are upset about that. I'm kind of I won't say new to Sony, but I'm coming back to Sony now after PSVR1, and I did that, and then I left it go. Like, I'm not a trophy hunter. I am an achievement hunter. I like going after these things, but I think they need to sort that out. I don't know why that's disabled. Maybe it's a technical reason. Maybe it's for cheating. I don't know. But RE8, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it streams so goddamn well. It looks amazing to watch on flat as well as it does in the headset. It does this kind of like wide FOV that's perfect at 60 FPS, and it just looks incredible. So for anyone who's looking to cast something, it's great. You might need to adjust your gamma levels a little bit, but yeah, that is a dream come true. So there we go. That's enough of Zim's highlight. So Adam, it's on your list. What about you, Jose? Are you a horror guy? Do you do VR horror stuff, or do you chicken out?
No, man.
It's too much.
I'm an absolute, unapologetically proud wimp. I will not. I am the person that would. I don't like the.
Just thinking
I'm the
about
person that whenever Phasmophobia, I play with max brightness and then brightness pumped up. I'm not with it. So I did see some questions in the chat. Did you notice any reflections when you with any issues like that? You said you didn't notice any of that.
Oh, people were saying in the black. Sometimes that's when you can tell.
Any Mura.
Oh, so Mura, I'll talk Miura later. Okay, we'll talk
Okay, cool.
PSVR2. I want to save it to that part of the podcast, more on the hardware review, and I'll give you my thoughts about the
So,
PlayStation system side. But I don't want to drag out my highlight too long. But yeah, Miura, you will see it in everything that you do on a PSVR2 headset. But I'll come back to that a little bit later. So with that, now is probably a good time for us to talk about our sponsor. We've got this lovely sponsor segment on the podcast. Always love this. And if you enjoyed that new intro, you can thank Cubism. So let's talk about Cubism. All right. It's a deceptively simple puzzle game where you assemble increasingly complex shapes out of colored blocks. It's the perfect title to start if you're on a quiet Eurostar rail trip or you're just watching over Gramps in his log cabin. It's got 90 puzzles to fadoodle your noodle on. Available on Quest, Rift, Pico Neo 3, and Steam VR. Cubism also sports pass-through and hand tracking, which we're showing here on the live cast. So this is definitely one to kind of play around with one of those capable headsets. There's an ambient soundtrack, which is the landscape to your, I like to think of it as your three-dimensional puzzling downfall. The sound score is a beautiful accent, really, to such a wonderfully calm and curious game. I want to thank Cubism for choosing to sponsor the podcast and reaching out to us and helping the second edition of this show put its own pieces back together. All right. Thank you, Cubism.
Well, what did you say? Fadoodle your noodle?
Fadoodle your noodle.
I have to run with that one.
Now that's a quote. Now that's a FReality t-shirt right there.
There you
Fadoodle
go.
your noodle.
Fadoodle your noodle.
Gurks and Fadoodle your noodle.
Yeah. Well, we're working on the old rebrand. We're going to do that. Yeah, Gurks and oh my, Club Gurk, Club Gurk. Yeah, there we go.
Gurk.
Bring the hashtags in. Well, we're onto the newsreel now, and this is going to be I'll call it the overdue news section. It is really. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a sad one. I am the believer that everyone deserves their 15 minutes of fame, and that goes for our top spot in today's show. That goes to our friend Darchangel. This is but a short and inadequate spotlight for a wonderful gal who is, in case you hadn't heard, is sadly no longer with us. Right after the last podcast 2 weeks ago, the first messages I picked up on Discord were from Darchangel's brother Chris and good friend Jason, otherwise known as Livinator, both who passed on the bitter news about Leslie. There was a wonderful memorial run by Eric and Todd of QTC, and it had a lovely cast of close friends doing that in her memory. Personally, I was introduced to Darchangel some years ago through this podcast, my own channel, which she loved to come along and watch and have me shriek, and her brother Chris. When I first arrived in San Jose for the first time at Oculus Connect 4, a little bit nervous as I hadn't gone out there before. I was traveling with the Windlands team, standing there in the San Jose McHenry Convention Center in the registration hall, and zim, I hear echoing off the walls. And a moment later, I found myself in the biggest bear hug I've ever had. Chris, who's Dark's brother, is an incredible fellow and survives his equally big-hearted sister. Most recently, Darchangel talked me into the VR mod for Deep Rock Galactic and tutored me in the setup, which was very much appreciated. I'm actually not a modding guy by nature. She and I used to go to the music gigs together, and this is what I'm always going to remember, kind of bopping in both venues and VR chat. And man, she was just always so cheery and into the vibe of the music. Like she was in the music for the music and had such an emanating spirit. Like we'd be jumping up and down in our headsets, just too full of life to care about looking silly, but standing a world apart when I was there in Scotland and she was in Boston, yet we were right there together, you know? So it's with those kinds of fond memories that we are so very sorry to lose her. And I just ask you to be supportive of her brother Chris and her dear friends where you can in the months ahead. So thank you, Dark, for all the good times. All right. Well, I do feel it like at this point that Dark would be nudging me to get on with the show and want me to tell people about what's going on this weekend because there's a music gig in Rec Room. Sorry, I'm trying to hold back a little bit here. And they're calling that Rec Rocks, which is a 2-day music festival in a VR canyon with headline acts Tokyo Machine and Ethan Bortnick. It's also got Clinton Kane, Akintoye, Charlie Curtis Bear, Susie Shin, Haven, and the Royal Foundry. Already they've got 75,000 people who've RSVP'd to go, and that's just awesome to see for a VR music event. Live music gigs are super fun. I've done that a bunch of times in VR. Used to love it. Really did. Really did. It was a great reason to like get together and be social and hang out with people and also meet strangers that way. So I'd recommend, go smooth with the crowd and see if there's some good tunes there that you haven't heard before. With as much snow as we have on the ground here, I know you don't have snow there, Jose, but it sounds like good times to me.
Me too.
It really
Gosh.
does. Yeah. Have you guys ever done like music gigs like this before? Have you partaken in the art?
I'm a nerd.
It's funny. Yeah.
That's I'm like I was never really a like concert person. I was more the like dance in my room by myself kind of a person. So I can appreciate them, but it's not like the crowd for me. Like I think probably in VR though would be like safer for me. That sounds so lame. But yeah, that's so no.
You can imagine what it's like in real life then. Yes. Yeah, funny.
There's something about being in a crowd of thousands of people, hundreds of people, and just hearing your favorite song. I'm a big concert goer. That's one thing about me is that I love, like, especially if it's an album that I like. I love going to like an artist. Like The Weeknd for After Hours. Like I went to see him and I was like in one of the first rows. Like I love music and I love being super close to the artist. Like especially if the music compels me a lot. In VR, weirdly enough, and this is the part that sucks, I don't like virtual concerts. At this, and it's for that reason. There has been close experiences that have given me that sense of collective emotion, but it has never been a concert, weirdly enough. It has been keynotes. The Meta Connect, weirdly enough, did that really well because we're with people and seeing the world open up to the live stream was really cool that you're experiencing something like that. Not in VR, but the Pokemon Go launch season was really cool, having a lot of people looking at the same screen, capturing the raids. I've been chasing that feeling. I know, Outspace, rest in peace, and all these other platforms that have been trying to it, but the sense of presence in a collective way has never been achieved for me. And that's something that I really, really hate that I can't enjoy in VR because you're talking about it. And I'm like, I want that so bad.
It's so convenient is the thing that I find. It's so convenient. I'm like you feel like you're at the zoo and you're like pressed up against the glass and you're like, I just want to have fun. Just let me have fun. Right. And that's kind of what it feels like. Like I really trance in music. I kind of lose myself. And before I ever got into VR, like I was doing that with various types of music. And, I used to go to Hyde Park in London. They'd have this O2 wireless festival. You'd be dancing amongst the crowd of people. Oh my God, it was so great. And so I'm like you in that way, Jose. I'm hunting that feeling. I have found parts of it, where I'm like literally dancing with some friends in VR, like bopping in my room, like as nerdy as Adam's talking about. I've been there, I've done that, and I've enjoyed it. But like you, it's not the full fat picture yet. And I definitely want that cake. And I don't know how it's going to come or when it's going to come. Maybe we got to wait for Neuralink or something to actually feel like you're there, feel the...
Tap me in.
It's like the shared breath, the sweat of the environment, the kind of madness, the feeling of like, am I going to get crushed, by this crowd, all that kind of stuff all together wrapped up into a lovely sandwich, but I'm looking forward to it. So Rec Room is anyway trying their hand at it this weekend. So the 11th and 12th, that's today and tomorrow. So go give it a shot if you're into Rec Room at all. So that's that one. Now, you guys will remember last time we went on about drilling your quest and speed holes and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, I found another one and I had to show it because it looks kind of cool, to Adam's point. Before I go to this, did you guys dig in the 90s those like see-through plastic covers on consoles and controllers? Do you like seeing the tech underneath, or do you not like that?
I had a Game Boy
Atomic
Color.
Purple, best color on the Game Boy.
I had that one.
See-through purple. Yes.
I've just united you two. It's like long lost friends, You're supposed to get that link cable out.
It was so
Oh,
great.
yeah. Oh, dude.
You'd have
Oh,
the
man.
crappy light
Have
that
you
like
guys-
uses your battery and
Yes.
kills it within like 10 minutes.
But we haven't seen like that translucent or transparent plastic really show itself for a while. I feel like ever since Apple did the iPhone, everyone's been too scared to show the innards of the case, you know. But until now, right? So we've this week I did see, and sorry, I don't have the picture for you on the podcast. Big Screen Beyond do a see-through front end that they were trying. That's not the final build. And then I saw on Reddit a transparent front end for the Quest 2. Now it's sporting a 22 degree Fahrenheit temperature drop, so it's actually helping matters. And it's got this savage kind of stylized transparent plastic, which I thought, hey, this is really well done. And it looked like just like a slice of fun for people who were having fun with their modded units. And then I realized this thing is off the shelf, and I couldn't believe it. So you're actually able to take the front of your Quest 2 headset off. This, of course, voids warranty and all that, so buyer beware. And it's an Amazon AMVR. Sorry, not Amazon. Amazon is where you can find it. An AMVR VR headset protective shell. And so this guy had basically taken the block off of the chipset, put a bunch of thermal paste, and applied this kind of like, how would I call it? It's almost like a face mask for the Quest 2. It's a plastic cover.
Oh yeah, you can
Seals on it won't be perfect because it's designed for when the Quest has a front. It's not designed for this use. This person has just kind of taken what's supposed to be an impact resistant shell for the front end of the Quest and kind of applied it. But I thought that was pretty cool. What do you how do you react to the look and feel compared to what we saw last podcast?
I like this a lot more. I like the fact that it has an adhesive mount just to kind of like guide it, and it makes it easier. I like the temperature dropping significantly. You said 45 degrees?
Not 45, 22 degrees Fahrenheit.
22 degrees Fahrenheit. Still significant.
Significant, yeah.
What I would like to know is that somebody used it like in a bright environment. The Quest 2's tracking, I feel like the translucency might not be good for it. Based on how it's looking, infrared is a highly reflective spectrum. Even if it's using lighting, anything that interferes with light, like a reflective surface, will always be bad. So I'm kind of curious how it works. If anybody has played it like in a really bright area, like near like things that normally won't affect the normal Quest, like small mirrors. Now that you have a really big reflective surface, what happens if the light's bouncing off a mirror and now hitting the headset back? I would love to see the use case of it, if it actually performs the way it does, because if it performs without any significant changes, I kind of want to do this to my Quest.
It looks good, right? It kind of looks like quite
beautiful.
attractive. And it's funny because I'm not like you guys. I like to see the tech. I mean, I did a Lec-Eng degree, so I like the electronic side of it. I generally like a cleaner look, kind of more a businessy front end to my devices. But I got to say, seeing this, I was kind of like, that looks pretty badass, actually. That looks kind of cool. So I hope headsets in the future do come looking like this. Because honestly, if I had a PlayStation with some cool, maybe even colored plastic that was like translucent, I feel like I might go for that model. I don't know.
Even have like other color options though. It's just white or black. So at least maybe even a color or like something customizable, so it's not just all the samey. I don't know. And then maybe translucent. It's like baby steps.
And you can probably tap into like any, you can probably like tap into, now you can add LED lights or do some cool stuff inside of it that you can see through.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what I'm thinking about. It's like, if I'm gonna have it translucent, I'm about to do like I'll probably change the fan, put LED lights on it.
RGB VR.
I like how you're thinking here, Jose. I really do, because you could make a really blinging looking setup, and that would look so sick on camera. Because it's one of the things that I miss from the DK2s with the infrared. I think it was the infrared filter or something on the Logitech. Can't remember the camera, C920 or something like that. But you would see those glowing purple. We talked about this on a previous podcast, I think. But I love that glow, that kind of flare that you get. We had it with the original PSVR1. We don't really have that anymore. One thing I would say is, and I don't know, Adam, if you can see it, on that same Reddit post, it's image 5 or 6. You got to click to the right. It shows the CPU and what this guy did with thermal paste. Now, just a quick message to anybody who, from from a not a PSVR2, from a PC modding perspective, if you've done thermal paste jobs before, you might have comments about how this guy approached this. So 3 comments I wanted to highlight. This is the top one. So much thermal paste. Literally, there's a ton of it on there. The next person said, "For real, bro, that shit is going everywhere. This should be top comment. Bro is icing a fucking cake." Okay, the second one. Which I burst out laughing. I couldn't help. And the third comment was, "I would live in a state of constant agony if I knew I purposefully decorated the inside of my Quest with thermal paste, but that's just me. I know it's hard to know when enough is enough and when is overdoing it. But yeah, this was clearly an overdoing it job. It looks like a cupcake, this thing."
It probably wasn't even a 22-degree temperature drop. He probably like choked out the sensor for the temperature.
Oh God.
It is funny though. It's great. It's great. Yeah, watch some videos on how to apply thermal paste, I would say, before you get into your DIY questing. So that's one anyway. That's the kind of fanciful headset that we had. Now on to another proper Mad Lad. This Reddit post shows a man jumping with a Quest Pro in a full-size trampoline park trampoline in a kind of exercise game with orbs coming at him and using his hand tracking to smack the orbs while he bounces up and down. I mean, my first thought on this one is that midlife crises are getting very strange. All right, but I'm kind of all for it. I mean, this guy's like bouncing up and down on a trampoline. He's got a Quest Pro on his head. He's doing this exercise. For anyone who's actually tried it, Black Box offer a lot of resistance training in a Vive Pro with the Vive trackers in a kind of a MOBA style game. And that's what this reminds me of. But they're out there. They're weird use cases. I'm glad they're coming. And it's just another piece of the strange internet for you, this very podcast. What do you guys think? Would you get... I mean, Adam, you've jumped off of a cliff in VR, so I guess you'd be up for something like this, huh?
But I guess if it's, did I buy the headset, or is it like someone else's headset that they're like, I guess it, because I think at least with the skydiving thing, you're mega strapped in. There's like no way like that anything's coming off. But with this, it's like, there's so much that could go. It looks, I'm not going to lie, that it looks insanely fun. It's just, it's $1,000 piece of equipment that I'd be so paranoid about, but it looks fun. Like, I'm sure that I would wipe out in many spectacular ways, because it seems weird. Like even just if you try to jump in real life and you're not or you're jumping in VR and not in real life, like that alone is trippy. So jumping on something as extreme as like a trampoline and having that equate to, I don't know, like it just seems weird.
And also taking into account that even though VR has gotten amazing, there's something called latency. We have never figured out, not even to this day, there's no such thing as one-to-one latency. So the momentum of you bouncing and what you're seeing in the virtual space, no matter how optimized it is, it will always be enough to be a really bad situation. I think it's cool. I think it's a improper use of technology for the situation. What you were describing, there's a really cool platform called Valo Jump. It's actually it's a trampoline with a lot of cool haptics, but it uses spatial projection, and it does the same thing. So you're jumping and you can interact with floating balls. They actually have a rock climbing component with the same projector that actually highlights the rocks as you're climbing up to make multiplayer rock climbing. So it gamifies that. I feel like those are better solutions for that kind of experience. Called again?
What's that called?
It's called a Valo climb for the rock climbing and Valo jump for the trampoline.
How do you spell that? VALO or
VALO? Yeah. Huh. They're actually a partner of my company. I'm actually installing one in Fresno, California. But it's really cool tech.
Invite me over, Jose.
Oh, dude, definitely. I'll definitely announce it on FReality so people can definitely stop by and check it out. But it's really cool tech. With that said, I that's really what it is. Like, it worries me. It's like I feel that everybody right now is chasing human experiences in VR, and it's like latency is important. Like, I actually have a video that maybe I'm gonna tease you if you guys want it, but we can show it at FReality. But I have a really cool video that we chopped up, and we have a go-kart like running mixed reality in VR. We're driving down the street. So if you guys want it, it's one of those things that I noticed. It's like a lot of people have been chasing these kinds of experiences, but I'm like, man, the latency is still a real problem.
Have you ever seen that that go-kart, you probably will have seen it, Nathan. The go-kart one that they did over in, I don't know what country that was. Was that Belgium or Netherlands?
Mhm.
Yeah, that the Space Pirate Trainer guys did. That was really, really neat. But where you had the synced up headset with the go-kart experience and you're driving in a circuitous track. I mean, that just seems like something that would be really fun. The experience that you were talking about, the mixed reality with the track, was that with the Quest Pro? Or
What's with the Quest Pro?
Okay.
No, actually we did with a Pico 4.
Pico 4.
I'll
Okay.
send. Yeah, I have a video.
I want to see
I
this
was
now.
tempted to release it, but I was like, oh man, people are gonna be like, it was gonna create a lot of like negative engagement because
That's fine.
yeah, which I was like, let me
Negative's
hold on
good.
to it.
Negative's
Yeah,
good.
I'll definitely give it to you guys so we can show it off. It's just a go-kart, just a go-kart, just fooling around and. But there's a lot of cool companies that are kind of messing with that stuff, and that's really what it is. It's like, man, latency.
Yeah, I know. We have to get past these hard barriers. That's what we're calling to the engineers for, which is probably what
Yeah.
Rowdy's working on. To be honest, he's off in the lab somewhere sorting us out for the for the next show. This next one's a bunch of fun. So Redditor Andreas Fraunberger said, "We found the office in a somewhat damp state today." Okay. But of course, this is no reason for us to interrupt work. Then you get to see a bunch of devs working in an environment with snorkel gear and developing a way underwater in a kind of like an AR filter. I couldn't tell if this was a filter on a video or an actual AR app, but these devs are like holding their breath, donning a Quest 2 and a Quest Pro in the shot. Just an awesome like AR implementation video. And I know we've seen like the Weather Channel ones where they're showing how bad a hurricane's going to be. But seeing people in an office working away underwater was pretty cool. I mean, it was a nice idea. Everyone, of course, in the video has since been electrocuted and died, but it was still a cool shot, lads. You'll be remembered well. Yeah. So it's it's pretty neat. What are the best like AR tricks that you've seen? Remember that like sneaker, that really cool sneaker that wasn't real, that was sitting on a desk, and you were like, I remember my wife still to this day doesn't believe. She's like, no, that's real. I'm like, it's not. It's fake. It's just it's an AR projection on the surface. Have you seen anything other than Pokemon Go that's, really lit you up in the AR space that you thought that's really cool?
I would say the XR3 anatomy demo.
Okay.
The Varjo has a demo for like studying the human anatomy, and it uses mixed reality in AR to like using contextual data to like kind of show you where you're at, and you can actually grab organs. I feel like that one gave me like a weird, like that, I don't know what you call that, but when you see blood and you get like that weird whooshy feel, like anxiety.
Being a weak human being? I get
yeah, being a big human baby. Yeah, exactly. I felt that by seeing this. I was like, whoa, it was very realistic, especially when you see like the blood flow, like how it goes to the heart and pumping.
Wait. So perfectly intact human, but you could see into them, basically,
yes.
And you could see their veins and all that system.
It has a bunch of layers, yeah.
So it's not that the person was injured in any way. It was just seeing the human body made you want to feel
function,
like fall over. Yeah, stuff.
Yeah, and it was seeing it function. The fact that you can grab the heart and actually stretch out, and you can see like the nerve where it's really bizarre, and it's the first time I felt like a weird sense of presence. I was like, oh man, like this is eerily accurate. You know what I mean? And I don't know how the human body looks inside, but you can see like. It's research tools like that. There's another one that is private by Coaster Amusements, and it's their engineers' software to create roller coasters, and they use AR, and it's really powerful stuff because they're using spatial anchors and a lot of weird handmade tools that they're actively tracking to represent specific parts that the software cannot properly accommodate just yet, right? Like there's specific components that physics wise you won't really be able to get real representation, so they actually carve out a physical giant foam box that's being tracked in VR so just cool intricacies like that. See it all dancing. It's super cool with AR.
Okay, I'm gonna have to laugh and highlight a comment here from Mad Hatter, who says, "I studied body anatomy while shooting testicles off soldiers in Sniper Elite." So yes, we've seen it in a few. We've seen it in a few games. I don't know. You get your medical
Sniper
degree.
Elite makes me really queasy. Sniper Elite, especially when you shoot the heads, it's like, oh. Yeah,
I think
that's exactly.
I think that was invented by Hollywood in a film called Three Kings.
Wow.
Um, back in I think it was the 90s even. That's a long time ago, but it was that idea of the slow time bullet shot, piercing a soldier, collapsing the lung. And they did this kind of like inside body shot. And ever since then, the games were like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Let's do
Ooh.
that. And they brought it into Doom and
Uh,
Mortal Kombat and all these
yeah.
games. So
I was gonna say that Mortal Kombat's finishers, like the super finishers that have like a whole 4 seconds dedicated to just gore, I can't handle it. It's like, man, I can handle gore, but like just the whole montage of it, the whole entire like seeing it, I can't. It's like, yeah.
That's okay. There has to be one on the podcast. We've got to represent that part of the population, so it's all right. You can still stay, Jose.
I'll be the wimp of the podcast.
It's fine. So that was a kind of an interesting like AR underwater shot. Next, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about a multiplayer VR horror game that's currently going through testing. Nightmare Tag, which I think is an excellent name, and I only know the poster's name, so Kyle DW14 is looking for more feedback and playtesters. But in short, we get to see in this shot dark corridors, quite claustrophobic, leaping, dark-colored, stalkish creatures coming after the players in this VR multiplayer horror. Feels a lot like Monstrum. Very claustrophobic, you're being hunted, and the players are trying to escape their death. But what this really reminds me of was a classic multiplayer game from the LAN scene, which was Aliens vs. Predators 2, which was amazing. You could play as the alien, or the soldier, or the predator, and they each had like a balance of skills. And you'd play these multiplayer matches, and again, if you're the soldier, man, that was a proper horror experience. Having real humans piloting just terrifying creatures coming at you through different vents and stuff. So this game to me looks quite exciting. And I look forward to this kind of game maturing and becoming something that we can play together with Jose.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, you said when you started saying like this reminds you of a game back in the days of LAN. I thought you were going to mention something like a deeper cut because I couldn't stop thinking. And this was like you blew open like memories. Have you ever heard of it? Was a Source game. It was a mod called Hidden.
NS. Oh, Hidden. Yeah, I was thinking Natural Selection there for a second.
Natural Selection is also really good, but Hidden. When you said jumping on the walls.
Yep.
I start thinking of Hidden because I loved playing Hidden Source so much. So now I'm like, if I can do that in VR, just stalk people and just prey on them. Oh, dude, I'm down.
Absolutely. I want those superpowers.
If I get to be the horror, I'm down for a horror game. Like, if I'm the horror, if I am the monster which creates the fear, I'm down. But if it's the opposite, maybe not.
That's fine. I think we'll let you do that, Jose. No worries. Do you have any old like nerdy multiplayer gaming memories, Adam?
Mostly like I had a big jump from like Super Nintendo to PC. Like I didn't have like the PlayStation, any of the originals, or the Xbox. Yep. So I think there was a game called No One Lives Forever 2 that came out early 2000s or something.
I love Nolf. It's amazing. What a great game.
Besides Unreal Tournament, which we've talked about before, I weirdly I did a lot of the multiplayer in there because there was like co-op missions that there were different multiplayer modes. But yeah, that's one of my he's getting up. It's serious. That's one of my all-time favorite games of all time. So it makes me happy to bring it up. And sorry about your camera. Oh my God, he's got it.
Oh yes.
And the first one too.
Wow. I never played the first
one.
I
don't think you can get it. Kate Archer was amazing though. It was really like what would I call it? Who's the guy who's
Austin Powers?
Austin Powers, yeah, thank you. It's like a female Austin Powers, and she's just amazing. It's such a good game. You know what this feels like? I feel like we got by Shell Games.
I Expect You to Die?
I Expect You to Die. That's the same kind of vibe in terms of the universe. But this came first and was fantastic. I Expect You to Die is there. Those two need to have like a brainchild, a baby. They just need to have a love child, I think, because that was a fantastic game. So you played the multiplayer of that then?
Oh yeah, the second one. That was like my first kind of foray into PC gaming because I thought, oh cool, like a female protagonist at that time was kind of unique. And then there was also sort of my first foray into like multiplayer on the computer, I guess.
Yeah.
My favorite.
That was so
game
cool. That just makes me feel, I was so happy to hear that someone else had like enjoyed that and that the multiplayer kind of functioned for them. I think it was short-lived for me. I was in Ireland and we didn't have, it was just because of the time zone and there weren't that many people playing it where we were, and our internet was like ISDN back then. It was, whole number of layers of problems. But man, Kate Archer, I did not think I would hear that reference from you. She sits in my game collection of proud titles, so
according to Paradise Decay in the chat, there's actually a VR mod for the.
I haven't tried it yet. I've been wanting to try it. It's a Luke Ross mod. I think that was one of the first ones that he ever did, and it's on my long giant list of like mods I have to try now, because I'm like,
that sounds awesome.
But because I have that game in such a high regard, I just want to make sure that, I don't know, maybe I'm in the right headspace, or I'm ready, or I don't know.
I've had that feeling before with games that I really liked, and you're like, do I really want to go and try this out in VR? Is it going to muck with my memories? You'll experience it in a way that feels separate to your original memories. So I don't think you're going to end up wiping out that part of your brain's hard drive. But oh man, what a lovely thing. Thanks for the shout, PD. I didn't know that was out. There's just so much that you can do now in modded VR, and some of those experiences are really good. So that's the one that was that's Nightmare Tag is what I saw. And again, it's just like an early one. Finally, for the new segment, creator Chris Quits Reality posted to Twitter on March 2nd with an immaculately synced Blade and Sorcery side-by-side video with Vive wands used as an arm extension, and he shows off some very interesting martial arts moves. Honestly, this is a pretty awesome like arm extension. Someone remarked that this makes it like Dal Zim from Street Fighter, and yep, it's either that or like Stretch Armstrong. But you have the like in-game character having these long stretchy arms while combatants are coming up, and this guy's literally flinging it around like I don't even know what you call that weapon. It's like a knife on a rope, I guess is what you would call it. But incredible piece of internet history just there. The only thing that I would say though is I'm totally sorry here, because feck those demonic soup ladles. I am done with those Vive wands. They are terrible and they belong in a museum now. But yeah, that's my piece said and done.
I love the Vive wands, man. I love it. It's just, you can do so much weird stuff. Like that arm stretch is insane. Like I saw that and I just started thinking of like, oh man, like there could be like a helicopter game where you can just swing a Vive wand over you, and like the faster it goes, because you can. That's the cool thing of infrared is like if you base stations, though, they can track pretty well. So yeah. I'm wondering if there's like, I would love to see a mini game where somebody has the same exact setup. There's two people side by side, and you're just spinning the Vive wand as fast as you can. Whoever spins faster floats up, and yeah, I want to make this now.
Mega Guardian
there was
for
a
that.
part of me that is so nervous about that. I used to stream in a room with a naked light bulb, and let's say that bulb didn't live forever, right? Live one stream, I smashed it and glass went everywhere. I was picking glass out even when I left 5 years later. So,
oh my gosh.
I'm not even joking. Like it was in my audio foam and stuff. It was all over the place.
That's awesome.
And it was one of those bulbs you're not supposed to inhale the contents of as well. So,
no, yeah.
Like,
whoopsie.
If I ever get cancer, it's because of selfie tennis was the reason, I just aced it. So, yeah, there's loads of stuff. I did not realize, Jeff is saying that the Vive wands make great body trackers. I hadn't even thought about that, that you can even just slip it in a pocket. That's a cool trick if you've got one still around. I have a full Vive kit just sitting behind me. But
I say and chain them all up. You can make a really cool nunchucks. There's actually I seen the nunchuck. I think it's on itch.io. There's like, I think it's called like Vive _nunchuck, and you can just string controllers together and it'll just track like a nunchuck.
Oh my god.
Great for Beat Saber, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Little unwieldy, but maybe, or it's sick tricks. If you can actually hit blocks that way, that'd be really cool, I guess.
That I would love to see that. I would like to see really cool, only in VR objects or weapons that could be created by using Vive wands.
There is a thing to say though, that, and I know a couple people go on about this, but like the base station trackers serve a technological advantage over inside out headset tracking. The precision that they can reach is just at a different level. I would it'd be very funny to see them try this with, Quest controllers or PSVR2 controllers. Like it wouldn't work. It wouldn't end up. You wouldn't get the sync with the because of the tracking limitations.
You can human centipede a bunch of Vive controllers and just see it in the virtual space.
Oh, we did that. That's like one of my last times in. How did we do that? We did that together in Alt Space. We did a bunch of them. So we weren't even in the same spot, but a bunch of them put them like just
controller, just make a giant. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it felt a little adult, but aside from that, everything was good. With that done, let's go ahead. Now that we're done with let's give a quick roundup of and move into PSVR2 general reception, how the media has been taking it in terms of reviews, and then we can spring our own 2 weeks thoughts on the headset and how we've been faring, each of us, with that as well. So I'm going to start off with my favorite Canadian, Linus Tech Tips, who gave the headset a great score. He basically said simply beats PCVR. He said it was just a fantastic price point. And I loved that because it's funny when you see reviewers make the same argument, but in contrast, complete 180 contrast with one another. Some people saying, oh, it's great, but the price is going to sink it for you. In this case, LTT came in and said, for example, the dynamic foveated rendering in the eye tracking, like I've experienced, just indiscernible. Like you couldn't tell. He was just like gobsmacked at the fact that the eye tracking was working, and on screen you could definitely see the rendering changes, but when you're in the headset, you could see none of it. So those were some of the kind of basic points. We had IGN as well. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10. So no matter what you feel about IGN, they just to summarize their post, they said Sony offers a simple design, and yet it's a quantum leap over its predecessor. When the PSVR2 1 launched, they'd given that an 8.5 out of 10, which was pretty good at the time. And really didn't have any benchmarks, no competition really at the time, aside from really the Rift and the Vive. And those were operating in kind of a different game space. But, to get a 9 out of 10 is pretty decent for a place like IGN, although I find they are a little bit upsy-downsy, so, who knows. On the lower end of the spectrum, we saw Ars Technica, who in recent years, I don't know, it's hard to trust them, but they said, it's hard to see it fundamentally winning many new converts to virtual reality's persistent niche. That was one of their kind of takeaway points. So they felt mixed about the headset. And Kotaku said that they had issues both with comfort and price, ushering VR wannabes towards PCVR instead. So they were saying you probably want to head to PCVR. It's more scalable. There's a bigger library, etc. Okay, so that's what they were saying on the street. I would say net, pretty overwhelmingly positive reviews is what I'm seeing. There are a few people calling out specific characteristics of the headset that they do or do not like, and I think this is probably a good time for us to go in there. So before I go into my side, you two have had a couple of days more than me over the last 2+ weeks with the headset. Let's start with your thoughts. So who wants to go first?
Adam.
I want to say, I may have had more days, but I'm pretty sure you've had more hours being in the headset. What, these 40+ hours? I don't know if I can say I've got that yet, but I like it because I think it introduces something that the other current headsets don't, like compared to standalone and PCVR being the others, I suppose, in that it's a good middle ground. I think like if you want those higher end graphics, but you don't want kind of like a semi-complicated setup or having to deal with base stations and all that stuff. Like it's a good middle. I wouldn't say it's cheap exactly because you do need, PS5 and to get the PSVR2 on its own. But it's like, I feel like it's a good, it's really good. It's in a good place. Like if you are kind of a graphics gamer snob, I don't know if you call it graphics snob, more of a hardcore gamer. But maybe you don't have that PC either that's meant for gaming, but you have a PS5. Maybe you're already a console person, and you've wanted to try this newfangled thing called VR, but you've seen Quest graphics, and maybe that's kind of a turnoff. Then I think this is perfect. Like, I think it's perfect for that kind of person. So I had good experiences with. Like I said earlier, it's been interesting. Even though I've sort of said like, oh, there's not as many unique titles. I think what a lot of these companies have done to make it tailored more for the PlayStation VR 2, like with a lot of the eye tracking stuff and even the haptics, it's really cool to see. I like to see those and then it makes me think on my index controllers. I'm like, did I have I know that the PSVR2 has better haptics overall, but when I use my index, I don't think about it, and so I have to go back and be like, did this have the same haptics? Like if I'm petting the dog in Tictacular, it doesn't feel the same, and then
it doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't feel the same, and can I even feel it? Like I don't think there's something that I can really appreciate about touching things in the PSVR2 compared to the PCVR, or specifically the index, where it just feels like, okay, haptic, like you touch a thing and it's just bzz. But it's special, I think, when it comes to the PSVR2. It's more
there's kind of more tactile. There's more of a texture to it, I would say.
Kayak
in the way
VR
that
too is a really good example, because if you're playing it on on the Quest and PCVR, Quest through Steam, all that, you feel the water, but it's just like tap. But when it's in the PSVR2, it's like I can feel the flow of the water, and it's really crazy. So yeah, there's little things that I don't know, kind of take it over the edge in that sense for me. It's just the eye tracking and the haptics bring so much to it.
Those are good unique selling points that stand out for PSVR2, and they don't have that corollary yet in the market, so that's a good point of competition. What about software side? Any games that stood out to you so far that you've tried, or kind of similar to what we were saying last time?
I still have to try Resident Evil Village. That's my next big game, because I did finish Horizon, and I'm not going to spoil that. But so now I want another big meaty content game to play, because Tentacular for me is more like I could chip away at it. So I'm excited to try that, especially having played it flat screen and never having tried the PCVR mods. So this will be a completely first time dive into this game in VR for me. I think I've done like one of the other Prey Dog Resident Evil mods, so I can't say that I've never done a Resident Evil mod, but these were the third person ones. I've never done like the Resident Evil 7 or this one, so I'm excited. I'm scared, but excited.
I think it's really interesting that you comment on the haptics in particular, because as a bit of a haptics nut myself, I think it's interesting that the PSVR2 controllers are detailed, and as you said, variable. They're detailed and variable. I would say that they're not wow factor in strength. I think that they are about half the strength of the DualSense controller. So the DualSense triggers they'll push your finger off the controller almost. They're quite strong. But I think in the PSVR2 controller, and no doubt this is in part because it's only running a 520 milliamp hour battery, which in comparison with a AA battery that has 2500, 520 milliamp hours is not a lot of capacity. And they do run for 4 or 5 hours, maybe even 6. But like, I think that trade-off point, the engineering trade-off point, along with comfort, because again, if you ratchet haptics up too much, it can be uncomfortable or numbing effect. I think they got it right. I don't know. I still want to be able to unlock and kind of amp up the haptic side, but let's see where that goes. But yeah, it stands out as something that's kind of distinct, kind of like when the Switch dropped and you had the ability to feel marbles shaking around in one of those little haptic controllers. That was a pretty neat trick. HD Rumble. It feels like VR finally got its HD Rumble. Thank you, Jose. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jose, in terms of the hardware and stuff? Has it stopped breaking your balls?
Yeah, it definitely did. That was definitely a game changer. I think after the podcast, last podcast, I think there was an update and everything started working as expected. So it was cool to actually play my library. A little bit similar to Adam. I would say that weirdly enough, every single game that is on the library, if you played it on the Quest 2 or on PCVR, it's a whole different game. That's I think what the PlayStation VR2 highlights the most is developer friendliness, the accessibility to create. Kayak VR, all these games, they're not just giving access to the PS5 and hey, port this to VR. They're giving like, hey, this game is going to port over. Now check this out. These are haptic APIs, Rumble APIs. I did get asked on the podcast prior. Somebody asked if the locomotion data is actually split from the headset. It is, which means the Cat VR should be compatible with the PSVR2. I do have a a converter for the
For
PS4.
people who don't know what that is, the giant
It's a
half
okay.
spherical walking
Looks like a treadmill.
Yeah, so
sort
there's
of.
actually
locomotion
the big
treadmill.
treadmills.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's actually a device that you can get for the original PSVR that actually splits the locomotion and lets you use that with the PSVR. So that is 100% compatible, which should be if unless they stopped it from software side. But you should be able to use this with the PSVR2. So we might even see some really cool free roam experiences. I will be messing with that in a few days. I want to see if Forbidden on Call of the Mountain is compatible with it, because it should.
Okay.
If the locomotion data is there and the treadmill decoder is connected to it, I don't see why it shouldn't.
Just away.
So I'll try that.
Yeah, I think that could be, if you get that working, definitely pop it on
That would be
Reddit.
cool, right?
They'll love you for it, I'm sure.
They'll love that for sure. But accessibility, man. Even Linus said it himself. Linus now being very well trusted tech nerd in the space. Yeah. His responsibility has kind of shifted from the nerds to the mass audiences and mass consumer. And the fact that if you hear Linus talking about PCVR, he is a hardcore PCVR enthusiast. He talks about Base Station 2.0. He is a very adamant Valve Index user. And the fact that he's championing the PSVR 2 goes to show how easy it is. The value proposition, it's super good. The people that are saying that this is not a good point of entry is like, I don't think a lot of people are overestimating the capacity of their computers. You cannot do what the PS5 can do with a 3070 or below. Like, simply not. I see people say, I can do better and I got a 3060 RTX. I'm like, bro, no, you cannot. Like, I love the enthusiasm. And it goes back to also game components, right? You can technically get haptic feedback, face plates, but it's all about implementation. Like BeHaptics, all these companies that have haptics for PCVR, some of them do have the luxury and the funds to properly implement it, but some of them are just using the audio. The PSVR2,
really
they're
good.
not doing that.
The audio on the headset
real
is really
APIs.
good. I gotta say, there's something that you said last podcast, because you came on literally dripping with enthusiasm to the last podcast about synth riders. And I was like, all right, like, give it a go. And so I did that. And the thing that stands out to me on the headset, like, the most out of everything else is something I didn't expect at all. I didn't expect, like, color gamut and light levels to be a thing that I should be excited for. That just didn't, it just doesn't register on Zim's, like, what I want things to rumble. I want to be immersed in the headset. I want great games, but I didn't think I'd be like a kid in a candy store, just stepping into the Horizon demo and seeing the difference between my cave space here that's dark and the brightness of the outside, and the difference between them, or running my fingers through like moss on some rocks or something like that.
Cool.
And the color, how punchy the color is. Like in Synth Riders, the neons attack you.
It's so
not
good.
in a harsh way, not like a blue LED that's on your alarm clock across the room that attacks you in the night. Not like that. I mean, in the nicest, like, vibrant electric way, everything stands out to the point where I can't. Well, I'll take you back. Sorry, I feel like I'm pulling you on a tangent here, Jose. But like, I can't fathom going to another headset for like the first touch contact with other content. Like, I feel like I'll be sad if I experience something that's brand new. Take Firmament that's coming, for example, was recently announced, and if I was to experience that on PCVR first and didn't wait for PSVR 2, I think I will feel disappointed, because it's like a lower saturation. There aren't those special features that the PSVR 2 brings. To me, this headset is just like, it's a really special piece of engineering. And the cool thing is, Adam said this, it's not like, oh, this is king. It's not like that. It's like a sidestep, and it's like this intersection of different engineering variables that we haven't had before. Or I certainly haven't felt anything kind of like this headset. And there are things that are, let's say, retractors or negatives that are different than other headsets. I don't think I've ever experienced Mura like this before. Maybe it was there on PSVR 1 and I just kind of ignored it because of all the other bits. But that's one thing that I'll talk about now just for a minute, because we're on it. But do you both experience mirror the kind of haze in the headset as well?
Depends on the game for
yeah.
me. Like I would see it in Call of the Mountain, but not so much. I don't know if it's because things are just coming at you, but I didn't notice in Synth Riders. I've heard a lot about it during Resident Evil 8, so I'm very curious to test it out during the dark moments. People said you could see it usually when it's really dark. No, or
it
Twitter?
wasn't. The thing is, if you're standing still, and you like move your head, you can tell you're kind of looking through what feels like a diffusion layer or a gate. It's not screen door effect. It's more like an applied cinema film grain is the best way I can describe it. And it's kind of like a gray cinema film grain that kind of goes over everything. So when you're playing your game, you don't notice it, you don't think about it. It's really only if you're like standing completely still and move your head just a little bit, you'll see it. There is a bit of ghosting in the headset. I've noticed that as well. And I know you can address that by reducing the brightness of the panel, but feck, no, I'm not doing that. I want my brightness. That panel is beautiful.
I saw that too, and I tried. I push it down, and I'm like, oh.
Dude, yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
My respect to people who are lowering their brightness. Saw some people doing that. I was like, I can't do this. No.
No, I'll take the ghosting. The ghosting is like, okay, ghosting's a little annoying, but this is what I mean. The way that they've engineered this headset into a spot where the stuff that matters is wonderful, and the stuff that, to me anyway, doesn't really matter is either serviceable or great or just a non-negligible like point. I just can't. They've done a great job, is what I think with this headset. For me, this is my
the perfect
current
value
top.
proposition.
Just irked above Quest 2. I really love the Quest 2 because of its cost, the fact you can take it anywhere. It's kind of modular to some degree. You can kind of customize it without going, off the shelf and actually pulling out a drill yourself, unless you really want to. But like that, the PSVR 2 has lighting, colors, the facial interface being a complete gasket and not resting the weight of the headset on your face is a big comfort bonus for me. I can see why certain people might find the nose gasket bothersome, or the way it sits on your forehead bothersome, or it's slipping because your hair is in a certain configuration. So it's not perfect for everybody, but I think for me, it's great. And the controllers have been the perfect size and shape and stuff, but I don't know. Some of these games are just amazing, like Synth Riders, Resident Evil 8, even Garden of the Sea, a game that I struggled to enjoy on Quest. Playing in this headset with the vibrancy, the pastels, kind of colorful, lovely ambient sonics. It's just
love that game.
I've fallen in love with this headset. I really, really have.
It's the perfect value proposition, man. Especially when you look at it, because the one thing that I've been learning, getting into products and all that, is that you always have to have the super high product, the low entry product level product, and the product that just makes sense. That you have to make the right compromises.
Exactly.
And it's weirdly enough that PSVR 2 had that opportunity created. And weirdly enough, which you got me thinking, and while you were talking about how they actually looked at the trade-offs that they wanted to make in order to make it make sense. And which I kept hearing, there was a Boz interview talking about the Quest Pro, and then we'll probably mention that later on. About the price drop, and he was talking about it. But the reason I'm bringing it up right now is because he was, he was talking about price elasticity and how consumers are really looking for that entry midpoint level. And as I'm hearing him talking about it, I was like, oh man, he's talking about the PSVR 2.
Exactly.
Like he's not even talking about their product. He's really talking about the PSVR 2 value proposition, that there are certain trade-offs that you can make that just really make sense. And now I'm like hearing that entire interview answer from him, and I'm like, oh man, he was not talking about the Quest Pro at all. He was really talking about
and we'll definitely get into that. Wow. I mean, it's like I think that, and that's where I am with this headset. And this is what Adam led in with, and I'm glad she said it, because to me, this isn't a replacement, right? When I got my Quest 2, it replaced my Rift S and my Quest 1 and my other headsets that I was using at the time. And I was like, great, I've got kind of an all-in-one type of headset. This is a complementary headset, in my opinion, in that if it's your only headset, you'll be totally happy with it. I think if you have a headset, like a good PCVR setup, or you're a Quest user and you have the money and the time to get this as well, it actually works really well. It's like a yin yang. Because for me, if I'm just anywhere on my house, or I want to go on the road, or I want to go outside, right, and play a game in like something like a space pirate trainer or spatial ops or something, then the Quest is great. It's also got all that indie stuff that's just like funky, weird stuff that you play for a short amount of time that will never be on the PlayStation. But then if you want like the simple experience that's plug and play, that's got great content, that even if you've played the titles before, feel and play in a way that's captivating and motivating you to play more on that platform, I'm losing weeks to this headset because of that fact.
So what you're saying is that the Quest is officially the Game Boy Color of VR, where the where the PSVR2 is the Super Nintendo. That's really what it is. It truly is. Wow.
Yeah, that's it. And the other thing that I wanted just to update people on, because I've tried it, and it was one of the things that I said I was really curious about, was the cinematic mode. So the fact that you can, without even turning a switch, I don't think I enabled anything. And I just picked up the headset. I wasn't running VR content. You see the menu or whatever. You can launch a game, and on what feels to me like a 120-inch television screen in a Void, very similar to the Netflix's Void or other things like VR desktop that you'd use. I tried sitting down in my recliner with the back of the headset against the backrest. I reclined all the way so that the screen was, let's say, at a 45 degree to the wall. And I sat there and I played Horizon Forbidden West for 4 hours straight.
Was it?
And
So
it was comfortable the whole time.
I know you were asking about that last time, and I was like, I hadn't tried.
It's a kind of a wide puck shape at the back. So as long as you're not like rocking your head left and right a lot, it's flat enough that it felt comfortable on that surface. I probably wouldn't lay on the ground with that, but against the soft back, it was fine. It was totally fine. It didn't bother me at all. And I played right through. And the cool thing, which I only realized until like after playing, was similar to when you had the like Oculus Go or Quest and you tried to watch a film or something in the headset. You're not distracted by your phone. You're not distracted by anything else. You just like immersed and focused, zoned in on the game. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge benefit for a dude who's in a house with like 6, 7 living animals. You know what I mean?
And
everything's going everywhere.
Or are they counted in the living animals? I don't know.
I would count them in the animal category for now.
Or intense ADHD like me. It's amazing.
But it's great to honestly, have that focus. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I felt immersed in a flat game. It's really strange, but I did. And the color pop in that panel, even though the Miura is there, that's the one thing. You always notice that the Miura is there, and in a flat game you see it, but the color fidelity, it's not quite, I would say, it's not quite to the sharpness of a 4K TV. It's well above a 1080p, so full HD, but I'd say it's about 3/4 of the way there. And then you get this massive screen. You're all by yourself. It's like having a personal IMAX. And to be able to do that, like to be able to reap the PlayStation library and then do VR and literally relax. Once you're done with your VRing, sit down, pop back on the couch or whatever, and pop the headset on in that way. There's not another headset that does that range of entertainment so well. Whether you have the ability to do standing up and then you want to just go sit down and it's like comfortable on the face for hours. So yeah, I'm just absolutely smitten with it. It's such a cool headset.
And even if it was possible to do in other form factors, like the usability, right? It's to get for PCVR experience, you have to open up the Quest launcher on the computer, make sure you're on the network, set it up, and then connect, or whatever you're using to interact for any interoperability with the headset. That you said it yourself. You can just, without even taking off the headset, you can go from VR to not VR and just sit down. You know what I mean? Like it's that usability, that low barrier entry point is super, super enticing. Like I actually have had friends and family who never really showed interest in VR because they happen to own a PS5 are asking me about, hey, is this PSVR2 a really good value proposition? I'm like, oh yes, get synth riders, because unfortunately, most people that you show VR to, you tend to show Beat Saber to.
Yes.
So being able to immediately show them something else that has like the facial haptics, honestly, Synth Riders has become my favorite game.
Synth Riders it's incredible, and like when you see all those tiles in the multiplayer, and then you get in with people and you play. Like I joined into like a weekend Synth Riders club, and they were they kicked my ass, right? But it was so cool. And like some of them were in Australia and various other places. And it was just so neat to jump into that. You felt like you'd walked into a yoga studio and you're like, right,
I love that.
It's time for downward facing dog. Zim, come on, let's go.
The community's so nice too. Yeah, they're such the team is such a nice bunch of people. So I'm gonna bring up haptics again because something specifically too about Synth Riders was like this feels good. Like it looks good, of course, but it also felt satisfying. Like when you actually got the little tick, it's like, yeah, I don't know. It was great. And the rails too. The rails, like it's different on the PC again with index knuckles. Definitely different feeling. Now I'm sad because I'm like, oh man, it's easier to record on my PC, but actually it feels real, good to do on the PlayStation. So I kind of would prefer that, but we're torn.
And you can actually, there's so many little intricacies that I felt like when you twist your arm in Synth Riders you actually feel like a little haptic nudge when you actually get it right. The face, it's really a really good implementation. And that's the exciting part because Synth Riders, when you look at the PC version versus PSVR2, all they added was just the haptics integration, just those little, that candy that really makes this feel like a whole different. It's the right amount of spice.
Like if you had a cookie, just a standard cookie, but then you put in, I don't know, walnuts or raisins or something, it just like fills it out. And that's what I think the PSVR2 has done for me. It's those extras are meaningful. They are extra. The audio is like the audio clarity. I don't know what Sony do, but there's something about like I can hear something in space in the right spot. And every so often it just catches me out and I go, oh shit, that's really cool. This is like, so the audio tree, it's just, like you said, it's a string of candy. It's like a candy necklace of these various bits. The other thing, I got two things to say. The build quality for me is really solid. The first PSVR1, I was a little bit worried about. Now this isn't at the level of the Quest or an Index where you could throw it against a wall and it'll be fine. That's not what I'm saying. Sony stuff is always a little bit on the fragile side. But as a step up from the first headset, I don't feel worried about letting my kids put it on or whatever, like that they're going to just like yank it in the wrong way and broken headset. That's okay. But one thing, Adam, you said last time, which was about the sweet spot, I got in and Rowdy was laughing at me because he was in the stream at the time. And I said, Adam's broken. She's just an Index user. That's all. Because to me, there was no sweet spot problem with this at all. Like, I throw the headset on and it's fine. There's no adjusting or anything that I have to do anytime I put the headset on. Even the first time I put the headset on.
I've got some stuff like on my lenses that doesn't want to come off, and I'm starting to question like, what is this stuff that's on my lenses that is causing it maybe? Because I've found the correct spot where I can kind of get past it, and the sweet spot's high enough where I can lower the headset, but it's still weird and slightly. I'll have to get a picture of it sometime because I'm like, is this right? Is this normal?
It's
not just you either,
before.
Right? So what I'm going to say is the PSVR1 had a certain feel to it in terms of sweet spot. This is very comparable to that. In that it is definitely going to feel narrower to you than like an Index. An Index is like jumping into a pool. In other words, it doesn't matter where in the pool you jump, you're going to get wet, right? I would say the PSVR1 is like walking through a door. Walk through the door the wrong way, you're going to get hurt, right? It's not the same thing. So I think where you're coming from and where a lot of people are coming from, particularly if they're Index users, are going to feel like, wow, this is a really tight zone. But as somebody who's tried a lot of the headsets over the years, it is in no way degraded from what we've had before. I would actually argue to say that it's better than PSVR1 in terms of its sweet spot. So it's not difficult to find the sweet spot, is all I'm saying.
I had weirdly enough, when you mentioned that, I remember like trying to see if I was adjusting it the wrong way. Yeah. And I did. When I started messing with that, like trying to like see if I was seeing everything correctly, I broke something in my brain because now I see the sweet spot like really accurately. That you just feel like you have to search for it. End up spending I now end up spending I don't know if originally, if I haven't thought about this, it would have happened.
I'm sorry.
Spent like a good.
So Adam's broken. She's broken, Jose.
It's a virus.
Yeah,
some of you listeners
destroyed me.
Have been broken as well.
Okay, I will say it's not a big like it's it's not a big deal or it doesn't take me very long to find it, but just bringing up the fact that I have to find it versus other headsets where it's just kind of plant, and then maybe you'd make a couple adjustments. Yeah. So
it became
I'm
a
not
tiny
picking
chore.
on you.
No, I'm not offended.
I'm trying to point out that there are definitely, and this was going to be the case for PSVR2 now that it's coming in, and there's people who've been doing VR for nearly a decade, and there's some that have had a headset just since a year ago, and they picked up a Quest, and they're like, this isn't good enough, let me go to the next thing. So I get the point of view part, but there's also something to be spoken about, at least Reddit thinks so, in this recent firmware update. So I don't know when that dropped exactly. I had it just about a day or two ago where both controllers had firmware updates separately and the headset. So if you haven't gone through that yet, if you haven't picked up the headset in a couple of days, this just dropped with the Discord update. So one of the cool things is now you can have Discord groups. You have to link your account to your PlayStation Network account, and then you can join Discord calls in the headset while you're playing. You can even do that while you're streaming, which is pretty neat. But with that came a firmware update, and there are like tens of reports on Reddit from groups of people who've said that certain headsets didn't feel right prior to this update and have been cleared up. Some of the visuals, textures, and stuff like that, and Kayak and other things. And I find that really curious. There's no mention of it whatsoever from Sony, but there are reports of people, for example, going over to their buddy's house and saying, hey, your headset doesn't look very clear. Going back to their own and saying, okay, mine's fine. Going back after this patch landed and saying, oh, yours is now on par. So if you're out there and you're like, hey, my headset was blurry or something, like just try it again after the firmware update is what I would say. Because it seems like something's happened and Sony's just doing it on the quiet.
Yeah,
so,
I think I got it yesterday. I haven't updated yet. I haven't jumped in the headset when I saw the update, but that's it. I'll have to... Okay. But now is that going to mess me up because I'm going to be thinking about that, kind of like placebo, like, oh yeah, wow, like, or is it actually...
That's what happened to me, but the opposite. Now that's like, I put it on, I see things clearly, and I'm like, am I seeing this clearly enough? And then I just start messing it up, and then I really mess it up, and I'm like, okay, what's the correct way? It's really weird. And you said something, Adam, that you said that you felt like you had something on your lens.
Yeah.
And that was actually something that was on, like, I was thinking that maybe I was sweating and like maybe hair grease or something got on the lenses. Like I was really like looking at the lenses for a bit, thinking that there was something smudgy going on, but it really is just the way that you put it on. The sweet spot, I think, might be affected by the software. Maybe maybe there's a phobia to rendering.
I'm curious after. So Jose, you've been in the headset the last day or two?
Not in the last 2 days. So I'm excited to now get that update. I did get weirdly enough, it wasn't the Discord, but I did get firmware updates for the controllers. Last podcast. That's the one I told about. Yeah. So I don't know if I already got that update, and maybe they're just.
I had that one as well. I had that separately. So I think this is a new one. Okay. This is a new one.
Okay. Cool.
And it'll be interesting. So now we're like leapfrogging each other with various versions. I feel like it's like when Quest are releasing versions, but if they've silently fixed a software problem that was affecting a subset of PSVR2 users, cool. Great. I just wish they would have said something about it so we're not just guessing. This feels like they've done something based on what I'm seeing in the populace talking about it. And some people are convinced that it's been, their experience has been improved. And who's gonna worry about that? The one thing I will say,
it'd be a bad idea for them. Their momentum is so good that for them to even come out and say, hey, this was broken.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you. I think doing it on the quiet is probably smart, even if they never say anything about it, because that noise problem will just die off, But that's great. So firmware update, Discord feature. One other thing that they showed, and I think I didn't share this video with you, Adam, is the easy strap replacement for PSVR2. They built this thing for easy replaceability. We talked last time about the teardown video that they'd done, but I think it's really good because one engineering component about the headset, which I find kind of weird, is the cable comes out completely perpendicular to the headset. So if you set it down naturally with the headset facing in the orientation as you wear it on a table, it's bending the cable. And I feel like at some point after multiple years of use, that's just going to end up with an internal cable break and you're going to have to replace it. So the good thing is you could rewind to this podcast and remember that there was an easy strap replacement and that would be something that you could do just to separate the headset. If you're looking at your headset, it's this little, what looks like almost like a PlayStation 2 save card connector at the front of the headset. and you're able to take it apart and take the cord completely out so you can get a new one. Now, they aren't currently selling them, so if you manage to hurt your headset in the next week or two, then you might be out of luck, but hopefully that'll come on sale soon, and hopefully not for 100 quid. So that is that.
I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because I was like, kind of, when I would put my headset away, it's like I kind of wanted to put it upside down, but I'm like, ew, that feels wrong too. Like
I put it upside down. I store mine. I did it here just for the podcast, but I store mine upside down because the plastic face grommet piece picks up hair like crazy.
But visually, I'm just like, oh god, like it's so wrong.
But yeah,
I hate the cable placement. If there's one serious complaint for me, it's the way they place the cable. I think anybody who likes having the cable behind their back when they're immersed in a deep, dark void and just have a cable laying behind your back it's psychopathic behavior, honestly. Like, just I can't. I don't like being touched when I'm.
I have one in the back and one in the front.
No, I'm good. Suspend the cable over me if I have to have a cable. I don't want to feel. Yeah, I hate the placement. I don't like it. It's something that I look at it and it makes me angry. Like, it's something that it really makes me irrationally angry. It's like, why would you do this?
Yeah. Well, at least it's not like the audio block on the first PSVR1 where they had a fat plastic dangler, and I was like, "What are you thinking?" No, they even had the brick that would dangle off the floor. These like square blocks. It was terrible design, but they have improved. I'm so glad they've learned, and that this headset is as good as it is. But it wouldn't be very Zim-like of me if we didn't at least show you a lady drunkenly face planting into a bookshelf with her PSVR2. I think that would be a good thing for all of you to see, for those who've tuned into the podcast. So I hope Adam will cue that one up. But I have to say, this is a bit of a warning as well. Alcohol, VR, panels don't mix very well. This lady could have lost her teeth. And she seems to have enjoyed the time because she comes out smiling in the drunken state after rolling over, but looks quite uncomfortable.
It's such a.
We're gonna see more of these. You know it. There's more of this coming.
Was she actually drunk?
Yeah.
I mean,
apparently.
I hope so. if that was non-drunk behavior.
I don't know, but some people, like Richie's plank experience, they get so immersed in something that they kind of just forget, real life everything, and they just do weird stuff, like thinking they could fly or jump off a plank or whatever. I don't know.
Did I send you that reel, Adam? That'd be the next video to roll. There's a composition of a minute long of people diving into their televisions and stuff like this, and it is a wonderful warning for people to, like we said on the last podcast, don't face your television screen. Don't let your guests be completely separate in your play space. But some of these are pretty aggressive.
It's painful to watch.
I love it.
Feel free to narrate as you're seeing it, because you're in sync with the audience.
My favorite are the ones when they're like boxing.
Oh yeah.
There's someone there. Yeah, there's mostly people running into their TVs, literally flying leaps into the TV. Yeah, it's punching other people. You're punching their like it's just so
punching their kids.
Yeah, punching kids and other people, random furniture. It's insane. And there is that famous one where the girl whips the Quest off of the gaskets somehow. It's so fat. That's one of my favorite ones. I love that so much.
The look of her shock after it is just amazing. Yeah, but if you're talking about just kind of being safe in VR, like there's always this feeling of mine. It's like, oh no, it's just the really dumb people this happens to. No, this happens to a lot of VR users. So yeah, just protect your equipment if you can. And it's going to happen to somebody. If it happens to you, sorry, but save up, buy another headset.
There you go.
With that, if you're looking for a new headset, headliner news here from Meta Quest Pro is that you can now get it just for $1. I couldn't believe it. Well, that's because I've been intentionally misreading that, but it's $1 less than $1,000. So yeah, $999 is the price you'll pay for a brand new Meta Quest Pro. 4 and a bit months after they launched for $1,500. Must feel good, Jose, huh?
They must fix the wireless first. Give me Wi-Fi 6E. Just give me that.
But if someone's cut the price of a headset that I paid $1,500 for by $500 4 months after I bought it, that's not going to feel good. That's going to feel pretty rubbish, right?
Yeah, for me, like it's weird. Like my anger is more of course the price cut is upsetting. Like
But that's a
it's
one-time thing, I suppose.
yeah,
You can
it's a
put it
one
in the
yeah.
past, but you want the
Exactly. What
usability of the headset to be
I want the
addressed.
usability that's being offered because at this
Right.
point, I bought a headset at $1,500 that doesn't do what I bought it to do, and then I got a price drop, and it still doesn't do what I set out to do.
Yeah.
I want my $1,500 back, like, and
Yeah.
that's something that I'm just cautiously waiting because if we don't see a Wi-Fi 6E update, let's say before June, and the Quest 3 does get announced,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this as a VR enthusiast, as somebody who buys these products, don't buy a Quest 3. Do not buy a Quest 3 because Meta is now proving to you that they will lie to their consumer. This is still touted to do Wi-Fi 6E. The chip is there. They have wireless capabilities. They're selling you a headset at a price. They lowered it at the price, but it's still not doing what they set out to do. So what are they going to do with the Quest 3? Like, can you trust it?
Yep.
It's really bizarre. You mentioned Zim, they're pulling out of their licensing for some games and how they have had weird practices before that seem very anti-consumer. This is as anti-consumer as you can get. You lied to the people that believed in the product. I love the hardware specifications, and
I wasn't
you still
super
didn't
close
deliver.
to it. Was that like a listed feature? Was the
Of course.
yeah.
But wait,
Right now, PCVR, the ability to stream onto the headset is broken because you're only limited to Wi-Fi 6, which is about half the bandwidth that you could actually get from this card. You can get about 1,200 megabits off the 6E standard, and you're only locked in at a performance rate about 400, 600. Yes, if you go over the router, you get on the network, you're going to get better stability, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm running with 500 megabytes, but you can do more. You can increase the resolution.
Now that difference is material to the end
It's
experience. It's one of the
absolutely,
main gripes that people have with the Quest 2 is its choke point, its throttle on two things. It's wireless capability in terms of the artifacting that comes with that, and then of course the channel encryption when you're using Link. So it's a very throttled, like held back headset, and for someone who knows what the full experience feels like, it's not enough, right? And so when you're paying premium, I can understand your point there. Adam, you were trying to interject with
I'll say,
something
but
there?
hey, you got a Metastore gift card, didn't you? I think, right? Or they were saying that they were going to give some out or
They
something.
were saying that, yeah.
Yeah, they gave me $100, which still doesn't really make the price difference make up for it. It's like, yeah, buy yourself. It's like, wait a minute.
Go crazy.
I really just want the headset to deliver what they set out to do. I think it's really it's really weird because I went from when the Quest Pro released, I was really on board with Meta's messaging. I loved their focus, the Boz talking about the value of ensuring that there was accessibility to high-end hardware and what it meant for PCVR. I remember, I think it was Jeremy J. Dunn asked Boz directly. He's like, "Hey, what about like arcades and LBE experiences, like people that really want high graphic fidelity?" And Boz was talking about PCVR, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." But when you look at Meta's approach to PCVR, it's broken. It's absolutely broken. It's something that I'm personally on the side researching a lot. And I'm starting to realize that you said the word throttles him, and I've been very careful with not using that word, but I have a very strong suspicion that Meta is throttling PCVR accessibility. They're not a big fan of it. And I think it's because they see the writing on the wall. And I think the PSVR2 was the shakeup. Nobody's comparing the PSVR2 to the MetaQuest. They're comparing it to PCVR, and that's really bad for an all-in-one headset company, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we can talk about that AMA in a second here. So I'm kind of holding off. Like, it's interesting. Quest Pro is the first Quest Rift and Quest product, right? From Oculus and Oculus by Facebook and Meta. From that whole chain, right? I've never skipped one of their headsets. It's the first one where I was like priced out of it. I was really interested in the headset, but and interested in their pitch, primarily the Microsoft and the working in VR stroke AR. Like, I was really keen on their approach. I've cooled on that, and I don't think I'll be buying one even at the reduced price, because to me, and let's talk a little bit about the price for a second. So they've reduced the price In the US, to $999. In the UK, it's £999. It's nice to see that parity because years ago we didn't get that, although it's sad to see the pound deteriorate that much. In Australian dollars, just for those who are not Australian, so that they can go, oh my lord, it's 1,729 Australian dollars. I worry about what the price of bread is. Australians, you can comment and tell them what the cost of a loaf of bread is. But Jesus Biscuit Lord, like that sounds like a very high price point. So that's the Quest Pro. The Quest 2 also, they've reduced the price of their upper Quest, the same one I own, is the 256 gigabyte SKU, which is dropping to $429, so about $430 down from 500, and that's the same again in the UK, so £429. The 128 gigabyte model, oddly, isn't moving right now. So for $399 or £399, you get the 128 gigabyte model, foot out 30 more quid, and you get double the memory on board, which sounds like a pretty good deal. So maybe they've got more of those to sell, or that's a warehouse burner, just like the Quest Pro. I don't know. But Jose alluded to some interesting details that Meta's CTO had unveiled during an AMA recently. So we had spoken and reported on this previously, that there was a price drop, a temporary price drop, which turns out that was a market price test. Before permanently lowering. So they had dropped it by 400, and they decided their market penetration would be best if they dropped it by this amount. It's really interesting to hear them talk kind of quite openly about this. I think it is actually reassuring as a shareholder, because they've got warehouses full of this stock. They need to ship it before it becomes, like a lot of tech, yesterday's news. So they're dropping it to 1,000. They're probably taking a loss on it at this point, but it makes more sense to get it out there. They really are playing price limbo. And for me, like we were just talking about PS5 and PSVR2 and that total package price, I still think to any VR user, unless you have a really niche use case, I'd recommend you, if for gaming purposes, PS5 and PSVR2 will give you oodles more benefit than, say, going for a Quest Pro. So either you're saying, I don't have the money, and I'm going to go buy, for example, a Quest 2 or a Pico or something, and I just get access to, libraries, giant libraries of VR content that way. Or I think you go for, I want easy plug and play, and the best that really money can buy right now at that well-engineered price point, and you'd go for a PSVR 2. I don't think that the price drop for Quest Pro has a place there right now.
It's a broken headset. That's a problem. Is that at the moment, nobody's like, if you look at it from the features that are being boasted and you compare it to the Quest 2, the features that will make this a differentiator to the Quest 2 is all those features are busted, because now the Quest Pro controller is available on the Quest 2. So the Quest Pro has really no tangible value at all. There is no the features that you're looking for, the encryption, including the Microsoft that you mentioned. Microsoft stealthily announced the same partnership with other headset manufacturers. Vario is on board with them.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, that's bad for them. That's bad for them.
There's no exclusivity there. I did see Microsoft announcing a lot of cool VR features that are coming to a lot of it's independent to Meta, is what I'm saying. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. They're announcing partnerships with Vario. I did see that, and I'm like, okay, so they know.
Still seem the one thing I would say is they still seem to have a vision. I think they have a vision, even if it's non-public, right? They have a vision and a roadmap, and they know what they're going after. I don't quite yet see where they're going to be successful with that vision. Quest 3 is interesting. We'll talk about that in a second, but I wanted to give a quick update, just as an aside, about Echo VR as well, because we'd heard that, and that was one of their other major plays, was they're like, let's shut down the stuff that's costing us money so we can focus on other things. Upload VR reported on the Echo VR mission, which, for those who haven't been following it, was a community bundling together $3,000 to get a plane to fly a banner over the Meta HQ for several hours that said, Zuck, don't kill VR esports, fight for Echo.com. And I don't. Jose, go on. You want to say something?
I'm just imagining Mark Zuckerberg waking up, doing his like morning Pilates and goes in and he just sees this and he just sheds a tear. He's like, just calls the phone, like, boss, I'm sorry, man. Like, we gotta bring it back. Like, what? Like, what were people expecting? Like, dude, like,
that's a waste.
3,000.
I know.
Yeah, sorry. Like, well, I just get so passionately angry. I read that and I was just like, use that money to fund a very talented developer to make a clone of it.
Yeah, because the thing is that money, the trouble is, I think what that money really is it was like having a funeral for the community. Like, we're going to fly our last flag before this ship goes underwater.
So you make it in honor of the guy that killed it.
It's kind of like if one person had completely funded it, then I'm like, okay, whatever, you can spend your money, I guess, on whatever you want. But it makes me a little sad that this was a communal donation thing that really could have gone to something else, anything.
Yeah, and you guys heard me last time, right? Like, I care quite a lot about the future of the esports scene and Echo, and like, you shouldn't kill off a community that's got thousands of active players. That's like my general approach to games. Like, once it gets to the point where it's really dead and it's tens of people playing, fair enough, right? Like, cut the cord. But like, you want to treat your customers well. And it's very similar to my thoughts on how Go has been treated and previous headsets have been treated. Just what meta's generally liking to do. They like it to be shorter fuse, not pay for the tail, and just I'm only going to sort the people who are paying now or last year. Like, that's it. That's all who I care about. Forget everybody who's had a device for a couple of years. And what we saw, and again, getting to Jose's point, right? I'm worried now. I'm worried for Quest 3, but we did get to see a little bit about this. So in the MetaQuest app, it's now visible in the list that Quest 2, Quest Pro, and a headset called Eureka. So unless Einstein has been brought back to life and is tinkering with the app code, we think this is the code name, the street name of Meta Quest 3's Stinson headset, which is likely in developer hands right now and is in warm-up for launch. More appropriately, Eureka, California has a beach called Clam Beach, which is home to a sand sculpture festival and a lot of crabs. So maybe they could have called this Clam instead of Eureka, but they chose Eureka as the name for this in that format. But Quest 3 right now, I'm really worried about it because I want to love it. I want to replace my Quest 2. My Quest 2 is old at this stage. They're going to have to, and with all the Bradley leaks, for example, I feel like I've seen enough of that Christmas party that maybe that's not a Christmas party that I need to get involved with, and that makes me nervous because I've been on board with Rift since DK1. Like, I don't want to say goodbye to it. I don't want to walk down a different path, but it feels like this summer or Q3, maybe we're going to be parting ways. So that's just how I feel about it at the moment.
It's just not, I don't know. Are they going to
yeah.
stop? Is it going to be kind of like well, Quest 1 still had support sort of for a while until more recently-ish completely. But is it going to be a thing, I wonder, where, you're going to be forced over to go to... But the Quest 2 has so much content that you could still use, even after the Quest 3 comes out. But I guess it just depends. Like, are they going to be like, everything's Quest 3 from now on? How slow is that? How slow going to be?
There were comments about the support on Quest 2, though. Boz touched on this. I don't know if you caught that as well, Jose. So he mentioned that Quest 3 and Quest 2 will be on the shelf for some time. Something along those lines. I don't have the exact quote. Yeah, but their very long time might be a year or two. I would be surprised if it's more than 2 years.
All headsets right now, and I think we talked a little briefly about this a few podcasts ago, is that the same supply chain that manufactures headsets is the same exact supply chain as cell phones. So the same lifespan of an Android device is going to be applied to the XR2 chipset. So we're going to probably see 3 to 5 years of support, but expecting 3 to 3.5 years of software, back end from a first party perspective, where Sony usually does 6 to 7 years, which is very interesting to see that happening in VR. The PSVR1 still has weirdly support on the PSVR2. I did see some people saying, hey, you can actually connect the PSVR1 and the PSVR2 on the PS5, just have one off, and it should detect You can have both connected. So I've seen that.
Yep.
But I think that's kind of where we're at. It's in order for what stops me. I love what you were saying about the Quest 3 stopping, like being the first one that parts way for you. I think I'm officially parted ways from Meta. I think it's not cool to release it. If Meta does come out and let's say in 6 months it says, yeah, hey guys, there was a hardware issue like that's completely irreparable, and our wireless on this device is completely borked. Anybody who purchased it will give a refund. And they're doing everything but that. I really do have a strong feeling that we'll never get proper wireless on this device. This is a broken device. I'm telling you, there's wireless.
I can tell your soul is broken. But...
Dude, like I love using the Pico 4 and the Quest 2 in the same room.
Yep.
You can't really use a Quest 2 properly next to a Pro. Like once you start really playing with the Pro, the wireless of the controllers just breaks everything around you. My Apple Watch weirdly loses Bluetooth connectivity. That's a whole bizarre thing. I bought a second Quest Pro. Like I've had so much research like that I've been doing that I'm just collectively keeping, hoping for Meta to pull the gun and say this was broken from beginning, or they just never fix it, because I want my 1500.
I've heard from a few Quest Pro owners that they still love the clarity of the headset. Like that's one of the main features that I'm hearing bubbling out of the whole thing, is that the pancake lenses and the clarity of the headset is just gorgeous. And that's, I think right now, the only or the main selling point over other headsets. So it's, for me, it's kind of, even though I've not tried one, it's bumped into that space where the HP Reverb G2 used to take, which was if I want eagle eye vision, that's the headset I go for. But even now, in seeing some of our, favorite side-by-siders like Tyrael Wood show off the difference between the panels in the best way that you can, to me, again, the colors in the PSVR2 and the other parts of the sensory package and the fact that you're completely absorbed in the headset, it's going to be very hard to shake me from this device now. I'm in love with the PSVR2. And I'm kind of unabashedly in love with it, because I feel like from an engineer's perspective, a lot of people are going to look at this headset and go, oh, there's that thing or that thing that I don't like. And I get that. And I hear you. Totally hear you. No problem. Every time I put the headset on, I see Miura and I go, yeah, right? But then I disappear into a world that's like, it's just got me. I feel like I'm just there in the bosom of VR, and it's amazing.
You know what worried me is I was like, oh crap, because kind of like how we were talking about how standalone is on one shelf and PSVR2 and PCVR, but it has me worried because I'm like, no, now am I going to have one headset of each type, like one standalone, that's my main, and then you got the PlayStation, and then there's my daily driver for the PC. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how much longer can I go on like this?
Console wars, let's go.
Some of us creators had to live through that, Adam. We had the PSVR, the Vive, and the Rift all at the same time, with different console software releases. That was a busy time. That is true. That is true. But we're getting back there again. But no, that's what we're feeling. And competition is great. I love seeing competition. I just wish I saw more competition out of Meta. The competing price is not enough, to Jose's point. Like, you got to look after
fix the headset.
The usability, right? That's really important. If they fix that, that could be an attractive headset. But then you've got things like the HTC offering that's coming to hit the table, and then Big Screen Beyond. And they've got headsets coming that could steal our want, and for someone who's like an Index user, be like, it's time for me to get a new headset now. And if Valve's all quiet on their front and they don't come up with something new, that might take the grand from them. And I feel like the enthusiast is ready to drop a grand on those headsets. But anyway, I suppose that's enough about PSVR2 for this week. No doubt it'll be in our casts for some time to come. I feel like my Quest 2 is just sat on the dummy now for some time, and it's like not gathering dust, right? I still am reaching for it. And there's still things coming to Quest that I can't play anywhere else. So I'm not off of that headset just yet. But for streaming purposes, oh my God, night and day different. So you probably won't see me streaming it very often from this point
Adding
forward.
to what you mentioned earlier about the regarding Echo, did you see who's handling their messaging for the shutdown?
No.
It's not the actual studio. It's actually Meta Reality Labs and the Horizons team.
Yeah, that's odd.
So, which is probably, it makes sense for them to have a little maybe either a memorial or at least a comparable version of the game on Horizons. They should. I feel like Horizons is has so much potential of being the new forum. Like I'm seeing such a big boom on Instagram and other socials of people that are building like nightclubs. It's the VR chat scene, but
Yeah.
for boomers. Is that weird to say? It's not the right term.
makes
Every
sense,
podcast
actually.
you alienate one group.
Yeah,
Jose,
I always,
so
you know what? If
just-
I'm not
he
alienating,
just loves the hate.
I have become an ageist on this podcast, but it really, Horizons really is becoming the VR chat for the less tech savvy, the quick
Keep going.
entry
Let's
point,
just keep going.
because we're seeing nightclubs.
kill him. I'm gonna kill him.
But it's true.
We're gonna meet in real life now, and he's gonna like be like, "Hey, Zim, you got some gray in your beard," and I'm just gonna take like out my
Oh,
ice
dude,
axe,
listen.
and it's going straight in his face, and I'm like, "Adam, pull out your chainsaw," we'll just cut him up.
Oh,
This is
listen.
getting very violent. Now.
I'm actually 65 years old. You guys don't just. This is.
You just wear it well. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
well,
part of the crew.
let's tell you what. We've been on the beach long enough. Let's pull our toes out of the sand. It's a busy content month ahead. Our releases lad is here to shine his torch on a selection of games he thinks you should look forward to play. For those who think
right.
torch is weird in that statement, flashlight, sorry, for Americans and North Americans. With that, Jose, I'll let you take it away.
All right. So a little bit of PSVR2 news, since we love talking about it, and Quest 2, little updates here. Before Your Eyes, releases on March 10th. I believe already released.
Yep.
And the PSVR2, it is the game we were talking about last week. It's not last podcast, but it's essentially controlled with blinking. So
Interesting.
I haven't played it yet. I don't know if you guys have, but it uses, I guess, your
Not yet.
eyes and blinking as a mechanics. I'm personally afraid of trying it. I'm very interested, but I don't know if you guys remember when I mentioned playing Call of the Mountain, that the menu system was going crazy because I was looking at all the menus.
Yeah. Did that get
Yes,
better
I'm
for
just
you?
saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I might speed run the game. I might be the first because of my blinking. Maybe I'll just speed run Before Your Eyes.
You're like, shit, that was an expensive 5 seconds. Yeah.
So hopefully there's a way to slow down the blinking. And that released March 10th. Next one, we got the Dark Pictures Anthology, Switchback.
Yes.
For PSVR2, that releases on the 16th. Is $39.99 USD, about 33 pounds. And the third one we have is.
I had no idea that was coming so
What's up?
soon.
Dude,
if just for Adam's benefit, so she can do the trailers, and you're very
Yes.
quick. But
sorry,
like,
listen.
It's fine.
I know you're excited as well, but like I didn't know Switchback was coming so soon. I mean, I knew they were kind of like, and that's the thing. This content lineup, I know initially back in January we were like, hey, there's not enough, and then they spackled in a whole bunch of extra content, and then you launch it, and it's like, I mean, even as I said, as Adam was reflecting, right? Like I've put like a solid week's worth of work. Had I, booked a work week or something, I put a solid number of hours
Yeah.
into just playing PSVR2. And it's like, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. And there's all these games that I want to go back and play. And then there's stuff coming. And there's so much coming this month. It's like, it scares me because now we'll talk about our trips coming up in a second here, but it's like, there's just too much coming, and that's a great place to be in. I think that's a good thing, right? Like, that's a good thing. But there's so much that I want to do that is coming our way. Switchback is definitely one of them. Obviously, you'll be skipping
I'm
this
really
one,
excited.
or are you going to do it?
Weirdly enough, when it comes to like rail shooters, I love them. It's not they don't tend to make me afraid. Anything that gives me the ability to control myself and have like control perception and if you give me the ability to scare myself, like turn a certain way and be freaked out, that's not.
Can I request
I'm not a fan
when
of that,
you
but
play it, you record yourself, even if it's not for a stream,
Please.
but just for our purposes?
Please.
I would love to see your
Oh,
reactions to it. I would like that'd
Just
be so
put
great.
your phone there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
put
be
the
good.
video
I'll
on
give you-
yourself. No problem.
I'll give you a visual. I am as loud and as animated, but completely full of fear.
I love it. I have to see this.
I don't
now.
have.
Same here.
I don't
I'm
have a.
just put my
I don't
napkin
have
in.
a. Yeah, no, literally, I don't have a spectrum. It's either really afraid or very happy. I can't dance in between. So maybe I'll do it. Maybe we can do a stream. Like I've been wanting to do co-op like horror games. So
We got to do something. I can't wait until Nightmare Tag comes out and we get to play that. All right,
dude, that
so
would be fun. And the third one, right?
Yeah.
Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Chapter 2, releases on the 21st.
Finally.
I believe, yeah, I know, PCVR and PSVR2. So
Yep.
I'm really excited that they're both releasing around the same time, which definitely builds some hype, because now I'm actually interested in getting the PSVR2 version, which was, Adam, actually, you convinced me to get to wait for the PCVR version, just based on how you spoke about it. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
But look at the trailer.
Maybe
it's
I
so
should.
sharp. Look, I'm gonna make hopefully Zim jealous. Wow, look at all the
Oh, I can't
clarity and the
The
shadows
visual.
and look at the
Yeah, but
flashlight.
I feel I think the thing is here, right? And having played and I can't talk about my time in the PC. I have played the PC one, but like the Quest version, which I played a lot. I probably played 20 hours of the Quest 2's Chapter 2 Saints and Sinners. I liked it a lot as a fan of Saints and Sinners. As you guys know, it's in my top 5, right? I'm actually more excited for Chapter 1 and a re-release of Chapter 1 with the changes and upgrades that they've made, because they've made specific upgrades for the PSVR2 version, including like retexturing and some of those smaller details. I was such a fan of the first game in terms of how the story played out. For the second game, no spoilers, Adam, don't worry, no spoilers, but it's like you jump into the middle of the story instead of the start. And so to me, I would, if you were brand new to Saints and Sinners, my strong suggestion is buy the bundle, because there's a bundle pack where you get both. And I would say play the first game, and then your save game is going to be able to feed the second game. So the things you unlock in that are going to be able to be ported to the second game, which is really cool. So if you find all these like recipes or whatever that you want to bring in, you'll be able to do it. And I don't know. So you're both going to play it on PC as opposed to PSVR2?
I still
No.
he says PSVR. Why do they have P's and S's and C's? They're all so complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was
Very
PlayStation VR2. I'm still on PC. I want to play it on the PSVR2 because of graphics and all that cool stuff, but I want my save. I want my save from the first game. That's literally the only thing. Is it?
Yeah.
I guess without spoilers, is it? Is there enough from whatever it takes from the first game and brings to the second where it's like meaningful?
I'm sorry to break your heart. You are going to want to bring your stuff forward, I would say.
Okay.
Because if you don't, the recipes are still there and you can go get them. You just have to do that thing again.
Oh.
And there are some quests and missions in the first game which are a proper pain in the ass. I can remember a few houses in particular where you struggle to make it out alive or whatever, and then you get that recipe. Like, to do that again, just because I love the game so much, I think I'm willing to do it. But I might play the first game again, start to finish. I don't know if I'm going to have the time to do it, but that's what I want to do. I want to go play the first game, beat the second game, and then play that. But you're probably looking at like 40, 50 hours between the two of them. You know, it's quite a bit of content. So, but if you're having a good time, the darks, that's it. The darks in that game are going to be fantastic. The vibrations, the feel, like I'm really hoping they nail the PSVR2 launch. And if they do, there's no way I'd play it on PC. I would 100% PSVR2.
Maybe I'll just get both. I'll just get the PC version for my save and then the PSVR just to mess around and enjoy the graphics and everything and the haptics and all the pretty stuff. I don't know. I might.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing what the PSVR2 can do graphically. Like I'm really excited of seeing. And honestly, as a PC VR first user, the functionalities of the controllers, the facial. Yes. I want to be scared if it comes with all those cool haptics.
Sounds very good. And those are our releases for the week. You want to recap them?
All right, yep. So first off, Before Your Eyes, PSVR 2, March 10th, $14.99 USD, about 12 pounds. Second one we have is Dark Pictures Anthology Switchback for PSVR 2. That's March 16th, $39.99 US, about 33 pounds. And the third one we have is Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 for PC VR and Chapters 1 and 2 for PSVR 2. That's March 21st for $39.99 or that's about 33 pounds. So, yep, that's the 3 games that we listed this week.
Thank you,
Nice.
Jose. Yeah, we got plenty coming. That's gonna wet our whistle. And there's just so much on the horizon. It's just great. I love it. As I said, it's one of those like first world problems of a VR person, I think. But I'm gonna recap the specific show times for those who might be catching us for the first time. This podcast is live every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. This show starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. We've got an audio version on SoundCloud, iTunes, and on Spotify. If you are watching us recorded, let us know what you thought in the comments. We're always eager to hear and continue to refine this show. With that said, I think it's chat's final time to shine. So are there any signals in chat that we want to echo there, Jose? Just take a look. And
all right, let's see here. Okay. A lot of people are actually very excited about the XR Elite. A lot of comparisons. Let's see here. A lot of Pico 4 versus Quest Pro. Just a lot of feverish debates against headsets happening right now, which is really cool to see.
I love it. I love it. Of course, we love the contestants of different options that are out there.
Bring on the console wars. I'm really hype. A lot of people keep saying that's not a good idea, but
I love it.
As somebody who lived through the console wars, like you get your mascots. VR needs a mascot. You know what I mean? It used to be Lucky back in the day, but for Lucky's Tale. But I would love to see like, I don't know. I want a Super Mario for VR. Like I want that. Give me a Crash Bandicoot.
I think as long as
that VR mascot.
As long as it's playful and not hateful, you know, when it comes to like people, it's just like sporting teams. You can have like fun rivalry. When it gets to the point where you're like putting bricks through people's windows, maybe it's time to stop. You know what I mean?
Well, I disagree with you, bro. If I see you wearing a MetaQuest shirt, it's on site. If I see you, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well,
just give it.
We certainly dolled you up right in the trailer, didn't we? On the new intro. Yeah, that's funny. Manic in the chat had said, only discovered FReality last week, subbing, backing, listened to about 6 backlog episodes. A shame I hadn't heard of them before. Well, welcome along, Manic. And I really suggest go right the way back. Watch right through. There's been an amazing number of years that FReality's there. They are fun, even now, to listen back to. So when you get all caught up, go backwards. Also, there are, for anyone who's a fan and happens to be heading to GDC in California, before the next podcast, these 3 fine people are going to be there. And also, we got stickers. So I'm going to be giving stickers to these. Whoa! With the new logo. So for those of you who caught my adorned mug as I was drinking away here in FReality style. So I've got stickers from my friends here on the cast, and I'm going to be giving them some. So tag them. I'm landing on Tuesday, though, so I'm not there for the full week. I'm there Tuesday through Thursday on the show floor. So hopefully I'll be able to tag these 2, give them their stickers, and send them on their merry way. But it'll be the first time we get to meet in person. We've been completely virtual. Which is, you're going to have to hold the tears back and all that. And the chainsaws. No chainsaws.
Now we just need Rowdy, though.
Security.
He's missing from us now, and he'll be missing from us at GDC.
Well, we'll get
what
him.
I was wondering, Zen, when you mentioned the user who and thank you so much for subscribing to us. But you know, Adam, I was just thinking to myself, we should probably explain that we used to be called Nathy and Mike, and they're going to be a little bit confused about the transitions that we made. You know, so we should probably say that. You know, we went through changes. You know, like I decided to get a little bit tanner. Adam, you know, did a much more intense change than I did, but you know,
really worked on the bald
same
spot.
Podcast.
Yeah, really worked on the bald spot. Went for some dye. Yeah. So that is lovely. Those guys are gonna love that. So yeah, for those who are going out to San Francisco, you know, we'll see you there. And if you need some laptop graffiti, then just hit us up. Very good. For those of you who just joined us halfway through the podcast and missed our brand new intro, well, when we finish live, wind it back, check it out. Let us know what you think. And that's really us, your fighters at FReality. I'll just say goodbye, Altspace. Thanks for listening. And let's get out of here and jump on a plane. All right.